So I moderated 2 panels on vocational education, internships, how we reinvent apprenticeships. Also was involved obviously in the Women in Leadership, and the panel around the collaboration piece. Interestingly, there were some really strong, consistent themes. So what I took away as what I heard from the room and what I noticed from our panels was, first and foremost, we need to be having some really robust conversations, right? Whether it's with the leader of our school, whether it's with a politician, whether it's with a parent, whether it's with someone who's saying, no, I'm not capable or whatever, we need to really challenge stigma and push forward. And that's something my whole year is all about advocation. Next year, I'm all about advocating for the voices that aren't advocated for. So we've done a paper on advocating for the teacher voice and the burnout and change piece there. We've done a piece on menopause and the link between burnout as well. So advocating for those. So I think we all need to rise to that. Linking to that communication, we need to be aware of our language. Whether it's us boosting us, the young people boosting them, but our language and how we use our language. I am a big believer language is power. Every little subtle thing around, it's just an apprenticeship, or I'm non-ATAR, or it's only this, or you're just a girl. All of those little flippant comments, and you would see it in the rural as well, the flippant comments are what we need to call out and say, I'm going to challenge you there. Let's go from here. So the language to me is really big. I've heard a couple of times this, and I totally agree, is listening without bias. It's actually getting involved to listen. And then I guess the making sure that what we're setting up is attainable. So that if we're setting up an apprenticeship, if we're setting up a traineeship, if we're setting up women for their next role or asking them to go into STEM, we're making it attainable, but we're also stretching those goalposts.
Rob McTaggart, education lead from Intel. I was able to moderate 2 fantastic panels. One being on partnerships and connections between industry and vocational education and universities and other education. And I think something that really came out of that is that it's important that it's not transactional. It's not just you give me a bit of sponsorship money and I'll go away and do it. It's really a long-term, sustainable building of trust, building of relationship, and in a way that isn't just about having one person over here and one person over there, industry, education, because as soon as that person moves on, which we know happens all the time, then you lose something really important that can take years to build into something that's actually worthwhile. And so it's important that I heard the word on that panel, interweaved, that we interweave the education and the industry. And I think that's beautifully put, because it's just such a stronger bond that we can have between them. There's so much potential with our industry partners for education to have authenticity in the work that's being done in education. Then it's not just about the theory in the curriculum. And there's ways that we can partner between industry and education that are not just about, well, you have people and I want people, but it's not just about those pipelines. It's also about aligning it so that when students are learning, they're starting to grasp what it's going to look like in the workforce, and when they come into the workforce, they're more ready. And so aligning that curriculum, that's something that needs to be sort of owned by both sides. And so something that came out of that conversation was that it's really a joint effort together. And so I thank those people on the panel for such a good storyline together there. The other one that we looked at was around tools. And we're talking about emerging technologies in education and industry. And another fantastic panel. Something that we heard from that was around having good governance and making good decisions, and how that wasn't just something that we can completely leave to education or completely leave to industry. Obviously, there's a big push of technology from those of us whose job it is to sell into education, but there's a pull from education, and aligning that and making sure that we're making good choices around technology is up to all of us together, but ultimately needs to be owned by the people in education. We have our innovation leads, but down to the teacher, down to the principal and the CIO, everybody, it's up to them to actually make good decisions. There are models available. I think the 4S model was something that got called out, which is a fantastic approach to deciding on innovation.
Back what the 4S model is?
Yeah, something and something and something else. Yeah. So look, a great chat about that. But I think with both of those, we started with the why. There is a need for emerging technologies. It is an equity piece. It is necessary so that our students are ready for the workforce. And so we just have to be really smart about our decisions. We've failed in the past. Around social media, that was something that was brought up, and there's potential for us to fail big again. But at least we have very smart people, especially in this room. I'll point to you, Mahendra, even who was on the panel. Thank you. That can help us make good choices around emerging technologies. So a lot of potential there.
Yeah, I will say, Dr. Helen Giorgio, in one of the panels that I was in, just like you said there about like sometimes we make mistakes and sometimes we don't get it right. We don't know what the impact we're having. One of the questions was about Helen got me out here. What was about the impact and you should sense like it's really like very well known. We're all very aware that actually having long-term measurable impact is actually like really tough to obtain. But that's not a barrier for us not to actually start the process. That's not a barrier for us to kick off. Is that a fair? Yeah, Rob, I'm going to ask you very quickly. Just like we have in Catherine, if we went down to the nuance of language and the listening with open ears and not biased, and then
Talking about me?
sorry?
Talking about mine?
Yeah.
Robust conversation.
Robust conversation. So, can you, if you were to take a few bullet points, what were your 2, 3, 4 bullet points, and bang, are the things that we would like to see the teachers guild sort of wrap up as a summary from your learning?
So I think I named them. Let's make sure that we're not just transactional, that we're adding value to the other people on the other side, and that we pull together and interweave when it comes to those connections. And that we are really smart and strategic about making decisions about the types of emerging technology and how we use it. Remembering that we can use technologies for learning, and we can also learn about technologies, and we can learn with technologies. So how we go about that with making the smart choices.
One of the really big things that I keep writing down is the importance of interconnectedness. And I'm on this thing at the moment about how, we've got these sectors that tend to work, they have their own ways of working, and they tend to do so in silos. And the connectedness, say, between education and industry, and between universities and schools, like all of these bridges that need building, that's actually an expertise and a profession, and it's one that's really well represented in this room. It's one that's not really very well supported, and those practices aren't necessarily recognised. And someone said, why don't we all come together and figure out how to do it well? And so I'd love to invite all of you who would consider yourself one of those connector people. Ruth mentioned in the panel the work at CSIRO we're doing around this sort of like building some frameworks, building some impact and evaluation metrics and practices, and we're kind of doing that collaboratively in a network. It's called STEM Insights, and we'd love to have you. If you just Google that, you'll find the join now button, and no obligation or anything. We'd love to have you.
I'll throw in a comment that I didn't learn today because I knew it already. But I think it's an important point, and I think it was demonstrated very clearly today, and that is that we're actually dealing not with 4 things: science, technology, engineering, and maths. We're actually dealing with 5. And the 5th is STEM. STEM is not just, and language matters, STEM is not just science, technology, engineering, and maths. We know what they are. They're science, technology, engineering, and maths, right? STEM is what those disciplines, plus medicine, plus others, it's what those disciplines have in common. It's the critical thinking, it's the scientific method, it's the training that we have to provide for students to be able to do and perform those STEM subjects. And I think that distinction is important. I think we need to understand that if we're training people and we're teaching people to do STEM, we're not just teaching them to play with test tubes. That's not STEM. So most of the discussion here today was not about science, technology, engineering, and maths. You all noticed that. I think the important thing is to understand what STEM is and to remember that when we deal with STEM, we mean STEM.
So just very quickly to add to that, also to remember that those skills of critical thinking, analysis, problem solving, creativity don't always fit into the curriculum. So that naughty child, that disruptive child, that child that doesn't like school, the school avoider can be someone successful in this industry because maybe they're 5 steps ahead.
Caspera Dastra, to the stars through the difficulties, or a rough road leads to the stars. Just to satisfy Brad's curiosity about my favorite character, this is a Mandalorian, this is the way, this is what we did today. And I'm really, really proud of what I've heard today. A lot of interesting things. So before going to our next slide, let me tell you that in the next 6-7 minutes, I will do my best to entertain you. And the part of entertaining is asking you a question. So this is my first question to you. Who wants to live forever? Please, raise your hand if you would like to live forever. No? We have a 1, we have a 2, we have a 2, we have a 2, we have a 2. Anyone else? Anyone else? I'm 3, 4, we have a 4, we have a 4, 5, we got a 5th one, we got a 5th one, there you go. So statistics says that about only less than 20% of humans would like to live forever. So there is a lifespan at the moment. We believe that we cannot live longer than 120 years. You will see later why I think this is important. As a scientist, as an astrophysicist, I really believe that the 2 questions that dominate the world since the day one, defined the day one, that you want is the origin of the universe, and of course the origin of life. This leads me now to a second question. Does any of you knows what is this number? Anyone? A quick tip. It's nothing to do with James Bond 007. Anyone? In about 11 slides from now, I'll tell you the answer. So please stay with me. I'm a scientist. As a scientist, I don't believe in a miracle. I believe that life is beautiful. I believe in laws of physics. And as such, I really think that there is probably a much more future than past. It's going to live, more people is going to live in the future than it's lived in the past. And I think this is something which is extremely important to the main point of this conference, of this innovation. So how much we value the future generations? That's the reason why we are actually here. My informal poll says that when I ask my students, and I asked my students on Friday, and I got the same answers. Imagine this beautiful planet in 1,000 years from now. It's a smoking ruin, and the human actions starting with our generations are responsible. So I asked them, what are we going to do? Are we going to do something? This is good or bad? Of course, 95% says, yeah, it's bad. 2% says, yeah, it's good. Right? And about 3% says, I don't care. Right? Now, what that tells me, there is a caring capacity. And I see the full room of people who cares. Not just, for our kids, grandkids, but for people, 1,000 years from now. And this is what I think this conference is about. As we conclude this year's Innovation and Industry Forum, I really want to extend my deepest thanks to everyone who made today such this meaningful, memorable success. Of course, we'll see the list of people here, Brad, Matt, Catherine, Rob, you did guys phenomenal job, your outstanding moderators, your leadership, expertise, energy, which brought us into these sessions in a life. Phenomenal job, guys, really. Your collective contribution, everyone here, a lot of small talks during the lunchtime breaks, it's really made this, really, really absolutely fantastic. Of course, my ex-boss, Barney Glover, opened this, with updating us what's going on upstairs and the way how the future looks from the government. And thanks very much, Kat. Is Kat still here? No? Thanks very much, Kat. It was a really inspirational a talk, a visionary, both of them telling us, the way how we may fly into a future. Of course, the panelists and the presenters through the day, thank you, for sharing your insights and all the questions that we asked, really provocative questions. It's actually, that's something that's really pushing us. Very importantly, University of Wollongong really did a phenomenal job allowing us, to actually ventilate our beautiful anger. A beautiful anger, yes, it's a very interesting expression, the way how we're looking into a future of the education in general. We also extend our gratitude to our sponsors. This is absolutely fantastic, all the sponsors. Guys, thank you, all of you. Thank you, for being our sponsors. You really understand the importance of all this together with us. Please come back next year as well. All right, okay, more things that we've learned here. Collaboration. We are collaborating. Adaptability, inclusions, and equity. As you can see, equity is something which I put here in a bold and in a yellow. I just 10-15 minutes ago, I was really touched to hear again the story which I experienced to my wife, to my daughters, of inequity that they've experienced. The reason why I'm standing here and talking to you is my joint fight with you guys. I do have my own opinion why is this happening, and I'll do my best to see this fixed. We have a lot of problems. And one which I've heard again 10 minutes ago from you guys, of inequity, especially when it comes down for women and men in STEM in general, there is something which, yes, I'm very passionate and very upset anytime I hear that. We need to work a lot. We really need to understand why is this happening. And I think, this is the elephant in the room, which politicians, which no one wants to really talk. We really need to keep discussing in this space. Technology, we talked about technology. I do have a strong opinion about technology and the way how technology works in education. I mentioned during the lunchtime, radio, TV, VHS tapes. You remember, guys, VHS tapes, CDs, calculators, logarithmic tables. You guys remember computers, PCs, you remember internet, yes, still around. You remember the Googling and all that. And now we have an extended Googling called AI. But things will change, So yes, a lot of technology. Visionary leadership, we have real leaders here, which is absolutely fantastic. But epicycles are our threats. What's the epicycles? Again, I'm a scientist, I'm an astrophysicist, and as such, once upon a time, a long time ago, we had beliefs that the Earth is in the center. And the way to fix and keep that theory that the Earth is in the center of the universe, we always introduced some small circles, which we called epicycles. That didn't solve the problem. That's our threat. We really need to think about generally, what's the problem, and not maybe just to fix, but maybe to change with something better. Further on, as we close, let us take this energy, these ideas that it's shared today, not just as a conclusion, but a call for an action. I think, this is something which is absolutely must do in the future. We have to continue building a collaborative, future-focused and inclusive educational system everywhere. We really need to work together because that's the way to go, as you may remember my second slide. Thank you once again to all our moderators, speakers, absolutely everyone. There is, of course, one and only Fred Osman. The reason why we are standing here is because of him, and it's only because of, not just only because of him, but it's mainly because of Fred. He's a real legend. I'm sure, you will, agree with me on that point. We look forward to seeing you next year at Western Sydney University, Parramatta. We'll see, how that's going to go. Thank you and safe travels. And of course, I promised you to tell you what this number means. So if you put this number on 1 million, you will get 2. This is the amount of annual growth if the total growth growth in 1 million years, just to multiply. In other words, in a million years from now, if we go by this rate of 0.0007%, we'll just double up our wealth. At the moment, we are going 3% per year. It's unsustainable. I'm just calling everyone to understand the way how we are growing. It's not the way to go. Mandalorians will not help us, guys, in any way or form. So please keep this in mind. If we continue this way, things is not going to be good for us in a million years from now. So this is definitely my last slide. Look into the various directions, the way how we're going to think about the future. Thank you very much.